Hey, what's up guys? Torvald here bringing you a new series on updated fits and tactics. Ever since the Surgical Strike update came, we saw the nerf and resistances across the board on all ships with the module. So I wanted to make this new series to get this information out to you. I'll show you what worked, what didn't work. And first off, I'm starting here with the T5 Ikitursa. Now this is the same Ikitursa I used last time. Here's the fit here. Same mid grades. The Entropic irradiation sinks are just Tech 2. All in all, this fit's going to cost you roughly 2 billion, maybe a little more, depending on market. I have run this fit before. This is the fit I used to run T5 Firestorms, and I stand by my original claim that this is not, the Ikitursa is not the best ship for running abyssal sites. It is not ideal. I've had a lot of close calls with this thing. It's gotten really tight in the past with time. It's a great overall ship. It does the job. However, it's not the most optimized, as you can tell with the weapon system, the ramping up damage. The first room I wanted to show you here was the Deep Watcher room. Mainly just wanted to highlight this one to show, while its weapon system is awesome in the sense that you get a lot of damage out of it, it's not ideal in the sense that you start out really low, sub 500 DPS, and you have to work your way up there. But rooms like this really get to show you, once you ramp up to that high DPS, how awesome this ship is. However, you're better off with other ships that start off with a initially higher DPS and is constant, rather than this one, which starts out really low and builds up to really high. I like this ship. It's a great ship. But again, as I said, with abyssals, it is not ideal. You're way better off with ships that do a constant 700 to 900 DPS in that range. Obviously, higher the better. Whereas this ship, it falls short. Rooms like this, it really excels in, kinda. But whenever it comes to rooms with a bunch of frigates or a bunch of cruisers or a lot of different targets where you have to target switch, you're looking at sub 500 DPS on average throughout that entire room, which will overall add to your total completion time. So that's kind of a drawback there with it. Typically how I approach this room, I will start with Mystic and start going for the Deep Watchers and getting damage on them. We are in a Firestorm, so they do have ramped up DPS, and on top of that, they're healing each other, they're repping each other. So ultimately, it's just getting DPS on them and sustaining that, getting that damage ramped up. As soon as you get in range with a Colt, go ahead and fire that up and get that ramping up on them and just build up damage. That's all it is. Heat when you need to. If you can use drones, if there's not a suppressor in your way, get the drones on there, get them attacking, get those guys down as quickly as possible. There's nothing crazy with this room. These guys are very easy. It is time consuming. However, once your damage gets ramped up, that's where you can really see this ship shine and how good it is. Once you get on top of them with a Colt, there's really nothing more to it. You can just sit on them, orbit them. Your best bet is to actually keep it range on them. That way you can get maximum application, and you can just see your weapon system build up. You can just see it ramp up 5% per cycle up to a maximum. I think it is 250%. And you can see those really big hits, but it's that easy. Again, easy room, no troubles here. I just really wanted to showcase the actual power of this ship and how much damage it does while it builds up. And you can see it starts really low, some horrible numbers as it builds up. And then again, you can overheat to increase damage if time is pretty rough. You can take some Pyrolancea, increase your damage output. And then again, if you don't have a suppressor on field, get those drones out there and get that damage on there, because again, time is your biggest issue with this ship. Cap is not much of an issue. Tank is not much of an issue. I've got the Ancillary there in case damage becomes overwhelming. You can activate that. It's kind of, in my opinion, it's better than the assault damage control because it kind of lasts longer. I do have the mid-grade Asklepians going, so that helps out a lot there. But here you can really see the damage. You know, we're getting over 1,000 DPS, and those hits are massive. So that's one of the good things about this ship. Really awesome damage there. This next room I want to showcase is the Charybdis Tyrannos room. I felt like this was a good one to show because of the new resistance changes to the modules. Your overall tank is less, and Charybdis Tyrannos is known for heavy hits. So I really wanted to show this room and how it was done and how the ship handles it with these new resistance nerfs. You can see right off the bat, big hit. Main focus in this room, first off, is all of the entanglers. Cap isn't so much an issue with this ship, so I'm not really worried about those null chargers too much. But the entanglers will basically give Charybdis Tyrannos free shots on me. So that is priority number one when coming into this room. Taking those guys down. As soon as they get into occult range, get that occult loaded, get that higher damage on them, and start taking them out as quickly as possible. Do not fly directly at Charybdis Tyrannos. Remember, angular velocity, you wanna kind of keep an angle at her. If you can spiral in, or if you can fly in at an angle, that way you're a harder target to hit. Right here, the tank is really going to be tested. Remember, resistances are lower than they have been before because of the changes to the modules. And then on top of that, these entanglers are holding you down, reducing your speed, therefore making you a much easier target to hit. So those are priority number one. Use drones if you can, if there's not a suppressor around. If there is a suppressor around, you kind of have to gauge whether those are as necessary as you think they are, or what's going to happen. But here you got to kind of play with that. Ancillary, if you need it, take your drugs. If you need the heat. This one actually held up pretty well. Things went pretty smoothly here. Big problem with this ship, actually, and something I'm kind of considering changing, is the prop mod. I do have an Afterburner there, and you can see how slow it goes. Even when you're not webbed, you're still going pretty slow. And it's pretty important to get occult on whatever ship you're trying to kill as quickly as possible. And one of the drawbacks to that is it has such a short range with 18 kilometers. So I'm thinking about switching it up. I'm not entirely sure yet. I have had some close calls, but here you can see playing with the ancillary and getting the entanglers down. I didn't really have much trouble. Tank did dip a little low there in some cases. I did have to heat a little bit. But by the time it was all said and done, I was able to make it to Charybdis Tyrannos with all the entanglers off me. I didn't take drugs. I kind of should have there. I definitely did get low enough. However, now I'm getting within range of her. Once you get in range of Charybdis Tyrannos, get the web on her, get your gun on her, and get yourself to a point where she is not going to apply damage. And then it's as easy as just staying right on top of her and getting that occult going, getting that damage ramped up, killing her as quickly as possible. You're on a Firestorm. She is a shield fit ship. Sure, her tank is shield, so Firestorm doesn't really benefit her as much as it does any of the other rats or any of the other battleships in the Abyss. So this one's really easy. Like I said, it's just a matter of getting that damage ramped up. But yeah, biggest problem here is that initial engagement there, where you're coming into the site and determining what rats you need to pick off. Cap is not much an issue, so don't worry too much about the null chargers. Your biggest priority is all those entanglers, because you can see the amount of damage Charybdis Tyrannos does if you're an easy target, and those entanglers make you a very easy target. So killing them ASAP is most important, and then while you're doing that, you're working on getting in range of Charybdis Tyrannos, getting under those guns, getting an orbit on her, and then kind of going from there. Big pain about Charybdis Tyrannos, she does like to kite, so she is going to fly directly away from you and go as far as possible. And here's another drawback, is with the Afterburner, makes it a real pain, because after you've killed Charybdis Tyrannos and you're heading back to the bioadaptive cache, you've got to burn that way. So be paying attention to your time. Be thinking about that. Overheat your prop mod if you need to. Do not, don't let 30, 40 kilometers kill you, because you could throw a little bit of heat on your prop mod. Time is tight with this ship. It can be tight, especially if you get a couple battleship rooms, or really any rooms, because the damage, the way the damage works. So do not be afraid to heat. Definitely heat if you need to. The last room I wanted to show you here, and this was actually surprising how difficult this room was, and I guess it's always been difficult with this ship, but this is the Leshak room. Surprisingly, yeah, this is very difficult, especially when they start out this far. You got to worry about blinding Leshaks, and you are running a Firestorm. Again, you're running a Firestorm, so if they've got more armor, and on top of that, they're repping each other, mixed with the fact that you've got an Afterburner, they're so far away, everything right here is just against you time-wise. It's not real hard to tank. Again, tanking capacitor, even if there's starving Leshaks on field, those aren't that much the issue. The biggest issue here is getting the Leshaks down, killing them all, especially because they like the starburst away, and the blinding Leshaks like to hinder you there. So this one you've really got to be on your game with paying attention to time and getting damage on. Start out with that Mystic. I decided to go with Mystic and start going for the blinding Leshaks so they don't reduce my targeting range, and the blinding Leshaks are going to start burning away from you. So if you don't focus them, they're going to get far enough away to they're going to be a huge pain later. So start bringing them down with Mystic. Again, heat if you need to, drugs if you need to, watch your time. You want to aim for under 6 minutes a room. The quicker the better, obviously, but My personal goal is if it takes more than 5 minutes to complete a room, something's wrong. I need to do something better. The room was definitely one of those rooms that got me thinking about maybe I need to start looking into a micro warp drive. Drawbacks to that, capacitor will suffer because this thing is cap stable, which I really enjoy. It makes it that much easier, so you can focus more on piloting and overheating more. Yeah, I was really surprised at how difficult this room was and how hard the shacks were to kill. They're very easy if you're on top of a pile of them and you've got occult ammo to burn. That's great, but whenever you got them starbursting away, or if you got to worry about starving Leshaks, if there are enough starving Leshaks, you're going to be looking at some real issues. That's where you're definitely going to rely on overheating your weapons a lot and getting on them as quickly as possible and burning them down. It'd be extremely unlucky to get 6 or 7 starving Leshaks, but I guess, you know, anything's possible. The loot is something you have to consider on how and when you're going to get it. I don't know why I didn't do this sooner, but you've got extra high slots, so throw a tractor beam on this thing. It can definitely fit a tractor beam, so throw a tractor beam on this thing. Make your life easier for getting that bioadaptive cache. That way, if you are running close on time and things are getting a little tight, instead of having to worry about burning an extra 10 kilometers out to the bioadaptive cache or whatever, you can just grab it from wherever you are with a reasonable amount of distance without having to take that extra time to go out of your way, as I did here. I decided to go for the bioadaptive cache because I knew all of these Leshaks were going on the far side of the gate, so if I didn't get the bioadaptive cache now, I'd have to come back to this side of the gate after killing those guys, and I was just going to go ahead and grab it now while I could. But yeah, fit a tractor beam on here. That's a much better idea. It'll help you a lot in all kinds of scenarios, especially because how close this thing gets on time, and, you know, trying to burn slow with that micro warp drive. But here I made the decision to keep Mystic on and stay near the gate. They were within range to where I could hit them with Mystic and build up damage. And it's kind of a thing you have to decide on, you know, using your own judgment, whether you want to actually burn out to them and get a cold on them, or if you just want to stay near the gate. Because when you think about it, if I burn out to them 20, 30 kilometers out to them, that puts me 20, 30 kilometers away from the gate, just so I can get occult damage on them, where I can just sit here and build up the mystic damage on them and stay within the gate. That'll save me the kind of extra time rather than having to burn out there just to get a cold on them and then burn back. But that's kind of your own. You got to base that judgment off positioning, time, and what you have available and where the Leshaks are and what's going on. Remember that while you're flying these abyssal sites, that it is not as easy as cookie cutters, either PvE and Eve, and you will have to rely on your own piloting to get through these situations. But that is basically it with the T5 Ikitursa. These 3 rooms here were the ones I personally considered the hardest, and that's why I decided to show in this video. For all the other rooms, really just, if you're flying this Ikitursa, if you're spending this amount of money, you should know what you're doing and you should have a grasp of how to handle those rooms. Mystic is long range, does less damage. Occult is short range, does more damage. So just using that knowledge, you start off with low DPS if you're switching targets a lot. So remember that while you're going through these sites. Do not be afraid of the heat. Do not be afraid to take drugs. The thing that will kill you is time with this thing. You shouldn't die to anything else. If you do, that'd be pilot error. Because this thing does work, it does live, it does, the tank is good, the cap is good. It's just a matter of getting that damage built up. But that is the T5 Ikitursa. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'll be coming out with more videos and more updates following the Surgical Strike update. So keep an eye on that. Thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Fly safe, and I'll see y'all in the abyss.